Hello, I'm Judy from Coffee, Cookies, and Books, and what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about everything that I read in the month of July. Had a really great reading month, and I can't wait to share it with you. Thanks again for joining me for one of my reading wrap-ups. Now, I love doing these, even though they are very long videos, and I am going to warn you ahead of time. I have 14 books to talk about. So before we get started, I would really love it if you could like and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers. That's kind of my main goal. Because once I get past there, then you feel like you've made it a little bit on YouTube. So anyway, would love it if you could help me out with that. Now, what we're going to do first is we are going to take care of just some housekeeping stuff with all of the challenges, and I'm just going to give you kind of a quick rundown of my stats for the month. So in total, I read 14 books, and that is 5,798 pages read. And this is what I really want to share with you. I had a fantastic reading month. So I had 3 3-stars, 7 4-stars, and 4 5-stars for an average rating of 4.07 stars. I think it's the best month I've had so far this year. July has just been really, really fantastic, and yeah, super happy with that. Now, out of that, I had 10 physical books and 4 ebooks, and I think out of the 4 ebooks, one of them was an ARC. So, of course, we will talk about that. So that was that. Then I have 3 major challenges that I participate in. One is my own challenge, and the others are challenges that I've gotten from other people. So my own challenge is 25 must-reads in 2025, and what I had to read was Abaddon's Gate and All In, which is the 3rd book in the Natural series, and I read both of those, but I also read Bad Blood, which is the final book in the Natural series, and which was supposed to be in my August TBR, and I got finished ahead, and I managed to finish that before the end of the month. So technically, I read 3 books on my 25 must-reads for 2025, and of course, I have put that up for you. Now, what you can see is that I technically only have 4 books left. I have Heat of the Everflame, Bride by Hallie Hazelwood, Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. So Heat of the Everflame, I can already tell you, is not going to get read this year, and that is because the 4th book is not coming out until next year. I am not going to read that until I know the 4th book is coming out. So the 3rd book has been put on the rails. It'll go on my must-reads for next year. So that one's off the list, and I will be putting a red X on that one because it's not going to get read this year. Bride and Wild Eyes will get read in October and November. Wild Eyes is on one of my buzzword reading challenges, and it's on it for December. I'm going to read it ahead, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. And then the last one is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That is also on one of the other buzzword reading challenges, and I'm going to read that along with the rest, Sunrise on the Reaping, and the first 3 books. So the entire 5 books from the Hunger Games, I am going to read in the month of December. So that means that Wild Eyes has to go ahead. So I'll put up the 2 buzzword reading challenges so you can see from the buzzword challenges that I am 100% up to date, but you can also see that The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is on the one in December, and Wild Eyes is on the other one in December. I don't know which is which, but you can see them on there. So Wild Eyes is just going to get read ahead. I'm just going to add it into either October or November, one of the 2. Because it's on my must-read list, it's going to get moved ahead so that we can get all of that completed. So that is the buzzword challenges. And then the other challenge that I have is the 25 in 25 bingo challenge. And I have included 2 new ones that are from this month, from July's reading group. And you can see The Last Wish has been put on, and A Court of Thorns and Roses has been put on. And those, so Last Wish was chapter titles, because in The Last Wish, it is each section of the book does have chapter titles and not chapter numbers. So I included that under that. And then the Court of Thorns and Roses is friend recommendation, and it's because everybody and their brother and mother and sister and what has recommended that book to me. Everybody, like everybody, friends on Facebook, friends on, it's everybody. So yeah, I read that book. It's going to get reviewed. So all of these are going to get reviewed, and hopefully you're going to enjoy that. All right, so now that we have gone through all of that, we are going to actually get down to my actual TBR for July and what I read. Okay, so I am putting up a little graphic of everything that I had drawn to be read for the month of July. You'll note down the, I guess it's the left or right side, the 3 that are going down straight, those are the 3 must reads that I had that were 25 in 2025 on that list, so they're on there. All the ones that are across the top are ebooks that I read, and then there's the other print books, and then the one extra, which was Bad Blood, which I added on from August's TBR because I had time to read it, and I read it. So I read ahead, 1 book. So that is the list, and I read everything on that list. So I am showing you what I read. If I didn't read it, I would have put an X near it, but everything has been read. So every month I will show you a list like this, and if there's anything that I didn't get to and I didn't read, unfortunately you'll get to see it. So this is how we're going to keep track of it going forward from here. All right, so I'm going to try to get through these as quick as I can. I am like not the most short verbal person. I tend to drag on a little bit too much, but I'm going to try not to drag on about it. So the first book that I did read, but I reviewed in July, so we're not going to review it here, is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I'll just pop it up on a screen for you, the cover on the screen. And it's a cozy romance, paranormal, and I had given it 4 stars. I really liked it, but the full review is in my June reading wrap-up, okay? So, super easy. Okay, so the next one, so I am going to put these in from the ones I liked the least to the ones I liked the best. So they're going to go in that order. And I had nothing under 3 stars. So that means that I pretty much enjoyed everything that I read. Most of the 3 stars, funnily enough, were ebooks. It just turned out that way. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they are all series. Yes, 2 romances and 1 fantasy romance. So I will be continuing in all of them because they were 3 stars. So to me, if they're 3 stars and it's a series, I will always continue the series because 3 stars is a perfectly acceptable read, means I enjoyed it just fine. So these are all 3 stars. Now, I haven't been giving star ratings, but I really think it's worth it. Now, I am not, because the only review system I use is Goodreads, I do not give out 1/4 and 1/2 stars, okay? It's 3, 4, or 5. That's it. keep it simple to go with the review system that I use. And that is just because I just don't have time for the other ones, and I don't find them all that much useful to me. Goodreads is good enough. So that's just my way. I've tried Storygraph and I've tried Fable, and it's like, kind of on the fence with both of them. So I just keep to a system that's just nice and easy. So Straight Star system. So these first few are all 3 stars. So the first one is Secrets in Calusa Cove by Elle James and Jen Talty. Now, Elle James, I've read quite a few of her romances before, so that was why I went into this one. I did not find this quite as strong as her, I think it's the Brotherhood series that she writes, and I really do enjoy that series. This one was kind of a little more middle of the road. I would say her Brotherhood series usually rates closer to 4-star for me. So, but this had Audra, who was the main female character, and she was returning home to a town that she had a history in. Her father had been gone missing. She assumed murdered. She was just young. I think she was 16 at the time. And they, small town, they blamed her. Meanwhile, she was sure somebody had killed her father. But she didn't come back for that reason. She came back as a photojournalist, and she was there to there was some sort of hunt. I can't remember what kind of hunt. It's like it has to do with their hunting like snakes in the Everglades, and they're trying to clear them out. It's not that they're trying to kill them. They're trying to thin the herd, so to speak, because there's too many of them. So that's what they're there for. And as an expert in the Everglades, because she's there to journal this in photos. And she happens to meet Dawson, who is an ex-SEAL and who is now the sheriff of the town, Calusa Cove. And so there's that. So with all her history and everything that's going on, most of the people in the town don't like her. It's like really super negative, and she has a huge chip on her shoulder, which, kind of understandable considering how young she was. And they're saying, oh, she ran away, but I mean, of course she left. Why the hell would she stay there? Like I said, those were certain things that just didn't make any sense to me. It's like, of course this woman she's gonna leave. I mean, it's really hard for 16 to 18-year-old teenager to hear negative stuff about herself, about her father, that they think she's a killer, and so on and so on. Like, wouldn't you leave? I would leave. I'd say, yeah, sayonara, I'm gone. So anyways, that kind of annoyed me a little bit. Now, Dawson, I think kind of him and a woman who worked for him at the police station, she believed that Audra never had anything to do with all of it. And I think Dawson finally kind of went over to that. I mean, now they had a romance and it was pretty spicy, and they fell into bed together right away. The thing that I liked about this was it was an insta love. Insta sex, yes, but not insta love, okay? And even the one thing that I did mention is even right down at the end, she wouldn't move in with him. So it was I would consider it to be kind of a normal relationship outside of the negativity that started at the beginning. And certain things through the story, maybe a bit of a spoiler, but things came to light about her father and what happened to her father. And yeah, it was good. That part I liked. So like the ending, I loved the ending. So I really liked that part. Now it wasn't a long book. It was like normal romance, 340 pages. So yeah, and I read that on Kindle Unlimited. So that was Secrets in Calusa Cove. Okay, our next book was another ebook, and it's Seeing It Through by Julia Wolf. And I also read this on Kindle Unlimited, and it is a romance. I'd seen this one reviewed by, is it Jen from the Book Refuge? I think it might have been her because she reviews so many romances, and I'm pretty sure it was her. She reviewed this one. And I liked the sound of it, so I thought that I would pick it up. And the two main characters are Hannah and Remington, or Remy is basically what they call him. Remy now, opposite of the other one, Remy's the one who left town. And Remy left town because of his father, because after his mother died, his father basically went to shit. He became an alcoholic, and it was a very bad home environment for Remy. So Remy left, and Remy became a photojournalist. So it's like I thought it was like so funny how it was sort of flipped. And Hannah is the one who stayed home. But the difference here is that Hannah became very close to Remy's father because Remy's father realized the position he put his son in. And Remy never came home. Now, what happened was Remy's father died. This is right all at the beginning of the book. Remy's father died, but he didn't come home until 6 weeks after. So they were buried, everything happened. Even though she sent communications, the reason he didn't come home was because he was in the hospital. He had he was a international photojournalist, and he went into war-torn countries. And he had been in an IED had hit their vehicle, and he was the only one that survived. Of the, I think there were 4 of them in the vehicle. He was the only one who survived, and he was in a pretty bad place, and he was in the hospital for a really long time. He had severe concussion, other injuries, all kinds of things like that. So that was why he didn't respond immediately. But I still don't think he was in a hurry, you know? And then he comes home and he finds out that she owns half the house with him. So, of course, this makes for a little bit of an interesting environment. Now, this is a romantic suspense. I just felt that the suspense part was a bit lackluster, okay? And kind of stupid, if I'm being perfectly honest, all right? You know, I'm not going to get into what that was or anything like that, but usually I like a suspense part that's a really integral part of the story. A book that comes to mind is Fragile Sanctuary by Catherine Cowles. Now, she writes a similar type of romantic suspense that is very a homebound romantic suspense, very family-oriented, that kind of thing. And like in Fragile Sanctuary, the buildup was through the whole book. Like, it was really crazy, the suspense part, and really what was transpiring in there. This book, a bit lackluster. So it was okay, and I enjoyed it, and I would continue on simply because I liked the other characters, I liked the other family members, things like that. So yeah, I am going to be continuing on with the series, but it was only 3 stars for me. So that was Seeing It Through by Julia Wolf. So the next one is Broken Bonds by Bree. This is a fantasy romance. Again, I read it on Kindle Unlimited. I love Kindle Unlimited. I like to read a lot of my romance books and smaller books that I can find. I just kind of whip through them on Kindle Unlimited, and this is one of them. Now, this is the beginning of a 6-book series. I believe it's 6 books. And this one, the first one's only 289 pages. It wasn't very long, whereas I think the rest of them are longer. I will be continuing on in this series, even though I only give it 3 stars. I still kind of liked it, But there's also things that I thought kind of missed the mark a little bit. But then I'm wondering if it's because you're going to find out this was so short. So that's one thing. And that you're going to find out a lot more about these certain aspects that I felt were missing in the first book in the second book. Okay. Now, this is a choose romance. However, literally, I don't even know that I would give this one chili pepper. I would say 0.5 chili peppers. So I might not give a 0.5 on the stars, but this was definitely point because there was literally one scene that was kind of sexual in nature. That's it with one of the guys. That was it. Okay. Everything else with the rest of the guys was built up. However, so because there's 5 of them, and she has what's called a bond with them. That was, I don't even know what that is. Okay. Wasn't really clearly explained. So that's one thing that I'm kind of not 100% sure on what the bond is, what the bond does for each of them, because she wouldn't let it happen. There's all kinds of things like that was going on. So I was very confused on what exactly the bond was. And then they all have gifts. So I'm not sure even what that was. So I'm going to read to you now just the 5 guys, okay? My impressions and where they were as far as their gifts. So Atlas, he's the one reasonable bond that isn't a dick and no idea what his gift is. So I don't know what his, I have no idea. Gabe, at first he's a complete dick, but they slowly build a fragile friendship. He's a wolf shifter. So that is his gift, okay? We get hints that he's a shifter at points in the book. You don't actually find out he's a shifter until almost the end. Okay, she has an idea he's a shifter. She has no idea what kind until the end. Okay, then there's Giffen. Who names a kid that? That was one of the notes that I put down. Another dick who I think is a healer. I think that's what his gift is. And he's a grump. But he's slowly coming around to her as well. 4 is North. I think he's the oldest. He has the most power. He's on the council, and he's a prime dick, control freak, and I have no idea what his gift is. No idea. Knox, out of the 5, he's the biggest dickhead. He gives dickhead a whole new meaning. I'm still not sure what his gift is either, but she, I think, thinks he's like her. I don't know what gift she is, but whatever gift she is super powerful. You only get kind of a glimpse of that at the end. So, like I said, confusing. And she has ran away from them. This is how the whole book starts. Her and her family, they're in a car accident. Her parents all die. She runs away because she is protecting everyone from her gift. So whatever it is, it's good or bad. Anyway, so that's the bulk of the story. I actually didn't mind it, but because there were so many inconsistencies and so many things that were weird. Now, she's only like, was she 18, 19, I think? I was okay with her age. She did act her age in a lot of this. A lot of her decision-making process was that of a 19-year-old. So I thought that that part was really well done. But I was never really sure, outside of like 2 or 3 of them, what their ages were of the guys. Okay, like North, I have no idea how old he was. Super powerful guy. He's on the council, but how old is this guy? Like, is he in his 30s? Because the only ones that were related were North and Knox. They were related. They were brothers. But none of these guys are related. So how the hell is she the bond of all 5 of these guys? Like, it just was very, very confusing. Anyway, yeah. So that's it for Broken Bonds. Like I said, I'm going to continue on to the next part in the series because this one did end in a cliffhanger. And of course, I want answers to all these questions. Anyway, yeah, so that's Broken Bonds. Okay, so that's it for those. Now, I have one more ebook, but that is in my 4 stars. And my 4 stars, I've kind of ranked them in the order of the ones I liked the best. And down from there. Or did I put, no, maybe I think I put them in the order that I actually read them. So, anyway, first one is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Okay, 4 stars. This book, I'll tell you what I didn't like about the book. I could have done without the whole academic setting. Like, this is at Yale or whatever. I could have done without that. I mean, I suppose it was part of it, but I was neither here nor there with that. Like she's got to study. So there's this character, Alex. And Alex is a Leith trainee, I put down. She can see grays. Grays are ghosts. So that is the fantasy element of this, because this has a certain urban structure to it. It takes place in Yale, but the voice in it is very old-fashioned, like historical. So I found the 2 blends a little off sometimes. The only places where I found that it, like where I liked it, was actually the dialogues, because the dialogues felt normal. Like, this is now. Like, there's cell phones, there's computers, laptops, there's all that stuff like that. But then everything else, like the whole structure of these this magic system, felt like it was in the 1800s. So, and that was what I found broke the story for me. Okay. But beyond that, I liked all of the characters. I liked how the story developed for Alex, and even where it went from her history and forward. Now, she had been working with this guy, Daniel. They called him Darlington. His last name was Arlington. And right from the beginning of the book, he's missing. But you hear about him and you get his perspective in the past during her training, as we're coming up to the training. And then you hit a point where you find out where he is. I don't want to say any more than that, because that would give away the book. And so that is interesting. And then there's also a murder that kind of happens right at the beginning of the book. And Alex has kind of fashioned herself as a bit of an investigator. So, because she thinks something's fishy about the murder, and she does not want to let it go, even though the dean has said, let it go. Okay. So, yeah, she gets involved. There's a guy who is he works for the police, but he knows about the all of the systems, all of the magic systems, and he's actually worked with the dean. Yeah, it's crazy how all of that works. They have like protection wards that they've put up around certain buildings to kind of protect them. Now, the thing with Alex is she has an ability that goes beyond just seeing the ghosts. And I'm not going to say anything more than that, because it's creepy, but it's really cool at the same time. Right. So anyway, I can say that the writing kind of reminded me a little bit of Taking Fisher, with that sort of very historical, but I felt that it was incongruent with the time and the place. So those 2 things felt weird to me. That's why I didn't give it 5 stars, because I loved the story and I loved the characters. Yeah. So that's why it didn't get 5 stars for me, because that was really off for me. I thought it was weird. Like just, yeah, really, really weird. Now, I do have Hellbent, which is the follow-up to this. And most people, I think Hellbent's kind of like right in the middle for most people, but I am looking forward to reading it. So that was that one. Our next one is Last Witch, which is the first book in the Witcher series, which is Geralt of Rivia. If you've ever watched the Netflix series, that's how I first was introduced to The Witcher. So I enjoyed this because it followed a lot of the timeline of the first part of the series. Now, not all of it. It only follows it up to a certain point, and it only follows it from Geralt's point of view. Okay, so you don't get any other. You don't get Yennefer's point of view. You don't get. Oh, good God! Dandelion is the bard, which is Jaskier in the TV series. Thank God they renamed him in the series Dandelion. Good call. The awful name. And like. There is the Butcher of Blaviken. That happens, but it happens at a different point and in a different way, sort of. Okay, parts of it are the same, parts of it are different. I actually preferred the book, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, because I've heard some people say they preferred the television series. I like the television series, but it just barely scratched the surface. This was so much better. Okay, now the one thing you don't meet in this book is Ciri. She does not come to light in this book at all. The other thing is you do get a story at the beginning about Nivellen, and he, I don't think, shows up until the second season of the series on Netflix, but I love the story. So I really enjoyed that because I didn't watch the second season because I didn't really like how the rest of The Witcher played out towards the end of it in the first season. And I think I watched did I watch a little bit? I tried to watch the first one, and I thought it was awful. So that's just me. That was just my opinion. I know a lot of people really loved it. I didn't care for it. But the one interesting thing is that when you're reading through this, in your mind, you're seeing Henry Cavill as Witcher. Yeah. You can't help that, right? Because by watching the series first, you're given a visual of what he looks like, and he really does fit the description perfectly. I thoroughly enjoyed all of this, and can't wait to continue on to the next one in the series. I gave this 4 stars. All right, so the next one is the last ebook that I had. This one was an arc from NetGalley, and it is a paranormal romantasy. Now, I don't want to say too much because it is an arc, but it deals. So it has. The paranormal side is that there are vampires and there are humans, and there are gifted humans and there are non-gifted humans, right? The gifted humans are called sigils, and they have markings that indicate, who they are, how strong they are, that kind of thing. And then there's the vampires. And vampires basically rule everything. And there is an emperor, and then there is the Colosseum. So this is like watching, what is it? Oh gosh, can't remember the movie, but the one with Russell Crowe, and it's like a fight to the death. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And the emperor gives an up or a down. It's exactly like that, but in paranormal fashion. And there are potentially 2 love interests for Arvel, who is our main female character. And she is dragged into this because this one vampire wants her to kill the emperor. So that's number 1. And then number two, what this vampire does is essentially kidnaps her two brothers, and one of them is very, very sick. They're twins. One of them is very sick, and she needs to try to figure out how to heal him, get him help. And this vampire who has basically pulled her into this, has said, we will cure your brother. So that's all built into this. The other one, so the other guy is Tiernan, and he's actually someone she grew up with and who disappeared. And he shows up, of course. And then there is Rorik, who's the Emperor's son. Well, actually, Tiernan's the Emperor's son as well, but he's, I think, the younger brother of the two. It's quite convoluted. So there is that. And yeah, it is just a crazy story. Now, I read an uncorrected version of the arc, and I felt like there were disjointed parts of it. I also kind of felt that the whole business of what happened in the arena, the Coliseum, went on way too long. Okay. There were other parts of what went on in the Coliseum that felt a little bit Hunger Games-ish-y, because it was like fantasy worlds that would not be in a sandy Coliseum, so to speak. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't want to give that away. What I will say is I've pre-ordered this book, okay, because I enjoyed this very much. I gave it 4 stars, because I really did like it. I think it could be 5-star, but not in the form that it was in the arc I read. Okay, so that's why it's like I want to wait and see, and I want to read the finished book. I liked it more than enough to buy it. It was 4 stars, so I liked it more than enough to buy it. So I did put that on there. Did I write down? I don't think I wrote down when it's coming out exactly. Did I? No, I didn't put down here when it's coming out. But yeah, so I can't wait to read the full one. Like I said, I did pre-order it. I think I even pre-ordered the Sprayed Edges version of it. So yeah, quite liked it. It's by Stacia Clark. Of course, I did put the cover up so you can see it. Never read any of her books before, and because I liked this one so much, I think I added another of her books into my wait list for Kindle Unlimited on another one of her series, because I do want to try it out. I typically don't like to read too much in the way of fantasy on Kindle Unlimited, because I just find I don't get as much out of it when I'm reading it in an ebook. I tend to prefer to read that in print, but and that's also probably why I only gave this 4 stars. I think it could be a 5-star, so we'll see when I get the print book. But yeah, so that was Who We Will Die by Stacia Stark. All right. So our next book is The Dagger and the Flame by Catherine Doyle, Book of the Month book. And this was I guess it is a fantasy YA with romance in it, but there's no overt romance. It is a hate to love, like to hate kind of relationship between these two people. So it's 2 points of view. It is Seraphine, who is the main female character, and there's Ransom, who's the main male character. Now, the way the book begins, it starts out with Seraphine's mother is murdered, and she sees someone on the hill. Basically, their home is burnt down. Her mother's there. And she thinks someone who she thinks is Ransom ends up being Ransom. Now so she has to find her way to the Cloaks, who her mother has said will protect her, because the city is run by the Daggers and the Cloaks. The Daggers are bad news, and the Cloaks are they're thieves. That's what they do. But they each do it for the king. So it's very weird sort of relationship that's happening. And the Daggers, now the guy who's the head of the Daggers, Dufort, I put in here, he has ordered Ransom to kill Seraphine. Okay. But Ransom finds he can't do it. Like, he struggles every time he sees her. And she manages to kind of outwit him a little bit, because she's actually pretty smart. And she gets away. Okay. And then along with that, in the back of this, there are these monsters that are appearing out of nowhere that are killing people. And so that is kind of the backstory that ties into the main story eventually. I loved how it transpired. It had a cliffhanger. It did not, their romance did not happen in the end. It ended up with them apart in the end. Yeah, so like I said, it's a cliffhanger. If you don't like cliffhangers, you know, you probably wouldn't want to read it. I loved it. Of course, I give it 4 stars, and I have ordered the sequel, which I think is coming out in early 2026, because I do want to read it. I'm hoping Book of the Month is going to have it. No, actually, this came out in November of last year, and I think the sequel is coming out in December of this year. So I am hoping Book of the Month is going to have the sequel, because I would like to have kind of matching books, right? So, but I did really, really like it, and I would recommend it to anybody who likes fantasy YA. And let me tell you, the characters felt YA, like the characters felt their age. Okay, I love it when the characters feel their age, because I think that that's like so important to a book. When you know your character, sure, they can grow up in a way that makes them have to be older faster, but I still like them to be their age, and that's it here. Not so much in the next book we're going to talk about. Okay, so our next book, our next 4-star, was God of Malice by Rina Kent, and this is the first Rina Kent book that I have read. And it is a dark romance for anybody who doesn't know. It is part of the Legacy of the Gods series, and I have bought the next one, which is God of Pain, and I will be reading that. Now, I enjoyed this book. I thought it was fine. It starts out a little rough, you know, how Glendon, who is our main female character, and Killian, how they meet is pretty rough right at the beginning, okay? He is very cruel, but he is consistently cruel through the whole book. But his feelings do develop for her, obviously, throughout the book. Her feelings are they're chaotic and they're an absolute mess, but it's also because she's under a certain amount of stress because of the death of someone she was close to. So that's kind of how the book starts out. I believe he takes advantage of her. I'm going to say it, 100% believes he takes advantage of her, but she lets him. So there's that, right? There's a certain amount of consent. Now, I think that this is like university. So I think she is 18, 19, just going into university. This is her first year. Whereas he, I think, is a touch older, because I think this is his 2nd or 3rd year. So that's how that works. Now, he's American. She's British. The school that they go to is in Scotland, I think. And there's like 2 different schools, and they kind of hate each other. It's just, yeah. So it's like gangs, and it's like a little bit of mafia, with the kids. Now, from what I understand, this is these are the kids from the original series. I've not read her original series. So if I'm going to be honest, before I read God of Pain, I want to go back and read her older series. That is the introduction with the parents. I want to do that first, okay? Because I want to know who the parents are better. Because you do get a fairly decent introduction to the parents of Glyndon and Killian, okay? But you want to know more. I want to know more. So I am going to probably do that before I read on. The likelihood is if they're in Kindle Unlimited, I'll just read them on Kindle Unlimited. I could have read this on Kindle Unlimited, but it is very long for a romance. Like, it is 550 pages. 553 I wrote down. So to me, that's a lot of pages for a romance. And when something is that long, I do typically prefer to read it in print. So now, I said, when I wrote down here, is the complaint I had is about the maturity level. And I felt it was more the men, the guys, than the girls. And you and I both know that an 18-year-old girl is probably just as mature as a 20, 21-year-old man. 100%. Okay? There were points where you would have thought he was supposed to be 30. Just in the way he talked, the way she referred to him, everything. He also had a really, really bad habit of using the C word to refer to her constantly. I mean, like, constantly. It was like every time he spoke to her, he called her that. And I didn't like that. Okay? It was like, what did I say? I said, seriously, I almost started a drinking game for every time he said that word, but figured I'd never finish the book because I'd be so drunk. It was just constant with the C word. So I'm hoping that changes with the next character because I don't like that about him. I have no problem with the fact that he uses that word, okay? I just had a problem with it being constant. Constant. Yeah, so, and then even like, it's even like when I said with some of his, the maturity level, like there were some things that he said that he had experienced and he had already done, and I've done this and I've done that, and I'm thinking, but you're only like 20. Like, what were you, 2 when you? Anyway, that was my complaint of the book. His character, not so much her character, but yeah, with his character. So anyway, like I said, before I continue on with the next book, I'm going to go back and read the series about the parents first. And then I will continue on with the Legacy of the Gods series. Yeah. Okay, and our next book is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And I actually quite like this book. I gave it 4 stars, even though it's not an urban fantasy, which is my preference. This is a fantasy romance, but it's set in a magical world. And, there's like the high fae and humans and all that sort of thing. So how this starts out is Feyre, who's a human, she is hunting for food for her family, and she comes across a buck, and she's planning to take that for food, and she sees a wolf, okay? And she doesn't know if the wolf is fae or not. She can't tell. Anyways, what ends up happening is she ends up killing both of them. And so she does kill the wolf. And she does what any hunter would do. She strips them and she breaks them down so that she can carry them home with her, and she takes them home so that they have meat, they have the fur, they have everything. Turns out that the wolf was part of a court of the Fae, and Tamlin, who was the head of the court and who was friends, and this guy that she killed was a warrior of his, comes and basically says, gives her no choice, that she has to go back with him to his kingdom and her family will be taken care of. So she does that. Now, what he does with the family, he does what they call glamours them, and essentially they forget what happened and that, why he showed up, and he's given her a story on where Feyre is and all kinds of things like that. So that is what happens with that. Now, this really reminded me an awful lot of The Cruel Prince, okay? Now, not in the sense that Tamlin is really cruel to her, because he actually isn't. Tamlin is actually quite sweet. And his emissary, who I would say is his best friend, Lucian, is probably meaner to her than Tamlin is when he brings her home. But how everything transpires through the whole story is, I found it interesting. So I found this is the part that I really liked about it. Now, I did find, say, the first half of the book a bit boring, but I found the second half of the book really interesting, and that was because it started to really build on how the world worked, this world. All of the Fae courts, all of the High Lords, and this one particular woman who's controlling everything. Okay, and how are they going to get rid of her? If they didn't get rid of her, everyone was doomed, including all the humans, her family. There was a lot involved. So that I found super interesting. Quite liked that a lot. And I really got into who those characters were. And by the time I got to the middle of the book, I was well invested into the characters. So I thought she wrote that fairly well. Now, interestingly enough, I read Crescent City, full Crescent City, and I finished it this year. And I loved Crescent City. It is urban fantasy. Again, it was written by her. The writing style has changed quite a bit, matured. It's just gotten better. I think it's gotten better, but I still liked this. So the general feel for how she wrote it, I thought it was really well done. I thought it was very accessible. So the thing that I found about The Cruel Prince was that I found the writing style a little harder to wrap my head around, so to speak, whereas this, not at all. It flowed fine for that. And so that's why I kind of think I liked this a little bit more. I think The Cruel Prince, the first book was the one that I found the hardest to get through, and then I just ran through the other two, and I did rate them higher. And I think it's because the writing kind of held me back a little bit in the first one, but this one was really great. So I am very much looking forward to the next one in the series. I know I have it up there somewhere, and it's a chunker, but I'll pull it at some point and I'll read it at some point for sure. Okay, so next book, Ruth Ware, One Perfect Couple. So this is my first Ruth Ware. I have several of hers on my shelves, and I really wanted to get to one eventually. And this was the first one that was picked in the Yassified game. So, love this. So this is it's all written from Lila's point of view. Lila is your female main character. She is part of and dating a guy by the name of Nico. Now, Nico, I think, is 3 or 4 years younger than her. Okay, I think he's 28, and I think Lila's 31, 32. And he is an actor. He's a wannabe actor. He's trying very hard, and he gets contacted by his agent and gets this offer to basically go in front of the director producer for this reality show. But it has to be a couple. So he does everything he can to talk Lila into doing it with him. Now, she works as a researcher. She's a virologist, is actually what she does specifically. And she's kind of at a crossroads in her career, sort of. And so when she approaches the professor she works with, he says, is it possible for me to get a couple weeks off? He's like, yes. And I think it's because they don't know what to do because things aren't working out the way that they thought they were going to work on the research project that they're on. And it's like, yeah, take a couple weeks off. Okay. But the gist of this is it could be 10 weeks. If you're the winner, you could be on this island out in the middle of the Indian Ocean for 10 weeks. They interview. There are 5 couples. Nico and Lila are chosen at the last minute. That actually becomes relevant once you get into the book about the fact that they were a last minute fill-in. You're introduced to all of these characters. So there's the 5 couples, and there's the guys, and there's the girls. And there's a very interesting dynamic with all of them. And of course, there's one bad guy in the group. Hard to tell which one it is, till you get in a little bit further. But what ends up essentially happening, but it doesn't happen until, did I say like how many pages it was? Yeah. So we are at almost 130 pages in before anything bad happens. Okay. There is something that goes down between her and Nico just before you hit this point. Okay. And then, so that is like a third of the book, as you can see. That's a third of the book. So that was my only complaint, and that was why I gave this 4 stars. This could have been 5 stars if there had been less of the crap at the beginning, and that had moved a little faster, and then we got into more of what was going on later on. I mean, the rest of the book from that point, from 130 pages onwards, loved it. Thought it was great. I enjoyed the whole push-pull, the suspense, the relationships, and the butting of heads, because these people were stranded there. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to say anything else because it'll give it all away. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really great. So, I mean, I've heard some people say they didn't like this one, and I've heard some people say they did, and I gave it a solid 4 stars. Could have been more if the beginning part of the book had been written tighter, a little faster, and there had been a bit more meat to it. I would have been totally in there, like in a heartbeat. But yeah, so good. All right. So now what we have is, and I've included these together because it's the same series. However, this was chosen for July and this was chosen for August, and I read it ahead because I had time because I finished everything from the July TBR early. So I read book 3, All In, and book 4, Bad Blood, of the Natural series together. I really loved this whole series. This was my first 5-star. Okay. And this was the first 5-star of the month. And I think it was my first read of the month because it was my must read. So I read it first. And did not disappoint me. How the relationships between Cassie, Dean, Michael, Leah, and Sloane developed, how the 5 of them developed. I thought that was fantastic. I also really liked kind of how, like, there were separate cases in each of the books. There were separate cases, except for the last book, okay, where they were going after, like they were chasing down somebody else. But then it ended up all tying into what happened to Cassie's mother, which tied back to the very beginning of the book. So that's all I can really say without giving too much of it away. But it also all ties into a murder that occurred, and she was an FBI agent, and that was right at the very beginning as well. And yeah, so it all kind of came full circle when we got to the end. I can't recommend this series enough. I think that even though they're teenagers, and like when you get to this book, the last one, Bad Blood, 2 of them are 18, 2 of them, Leah and Michael. So they're basically getting to 18, right? And then technically at 18, they're not going to be part of the natural program anymore because they're not young enough, essentially. Anyway, yeah, loved it, by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I would say that if you like a good thriller, mystery, crime, FBI profiling, if you like that, and these kids have their special gifts, but it's nothing out there in the Australian. Their gifts are developed gifts that they've developed because of how they grew up. So, super important. That point's super important. So, yeah, highly recommend. Loved it. Then we have Abaddon's Gate by James S. Corey. This is the 3rd book in the Expanse series. So this just continues exactly where book 2 left off. I don't want to say too much again because it would give away sort of the direction that everything was going in. But suffice to say that you have Captain Holden, who was one of the main characters in the first book. He plays a very key role in this book. And then you also have multiple characters kind of that are happening on the outline of what's going on with him and his crew, and eventually how they all come together, and it's like this explosion, and it's crazy. Okay. Yeah, loved it. And I loved the part that Miller, who is the other main character from the first book, I loved the part that Miller played in this book. And what happened with the proto-molecule and this so-called gate that has appeared. Wow. That's all I can say. 5 stars. The next one is the Cibola something or other. What is it? Cibola Burn is the next one. So I've put that in my cards to choose for the TBR because I really want to read it. If I don't choose it, I'm probably going to read it anyways because, wow. Yeah. It's like one of these things, when you're reading a series like this, you can't say too much, which is one of the reasons why I introduced the deep dive last week, because it's like when you read these books, you want to be able to talk about them. But when you're reading a series, and it is an ongoing series, you can't talk about it. Like, it's a lot different, when I read my romances, and from one book to the next, it's a different couple. So you can totally talk. about them. You can at least give a good rundown on what the story is about. But when they are a series, which is what this was and what the Natural series was and what my next book is, you can only say so much, right? Because if you give it all away, then you're giving away the farm. So anyway, loved it. Yeah. Okay. Next one is, again, the second book in a series. This is Finlay Donovan, Knocks 'Em Dead by Elle Cosimano. And this is yet another one that I can't say too much about. I can't even say, really, yeah. You know why? Because the shit that happens in the first book with Finlay and with Vero, who is her best friend, partner in crime, babysitter, roommate. So between the two of them and everything that transpired in the first book ended in the culmination with a cliffhanger that leads right into this book, and this whole story is based on that. I can't tell you any more than that. I mean, outside of saying that I think this was actually more chaos than the first book. Yeah, it was kind of crazy how the whole thing transpired. Okay. And in the end, nothing was as it seemed. I can say that much about the book. Okay. That, you're going through this story and you think this is how it's going to go. And it did not go that way. Surprised the hell out of me at the end. And I was kind of like, no way. And then, of course, then you're left with another cliffhanger at the end of it. Of course, because there's another book in the series, which I think is Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun. I think is the next one. Maybe? Yeah. And, of course, she ends up, yeah, I can't even say that. I can't even say that. Oh, my God. Anyway, so good. I love that. Yeah, I can't even talk about my favorite books. This is crazy. But, if they're all sequels to series that you've already read and they're ongoing series and they're tied into each other, you can only say so much. I mean, outside of the fact, there was nothing in Finlay Donovan that I would say was negative. Okay? And all the things, way she acted and the things that happened to her, and were perfectly natural because you expect it from the first book. I described her to somebody I was talking to about it, and I said, she is just a chaotic mess that you love. You can't help but love her. And Vero's kind of the same. And Vero's got lots of secrets, okay? So I'll say that about her. And I'm going to say what? Vero's got lots of secrets. And then there's her relationship with the detective guy. And Julian. Yeah, what's going on with the two of them. And then there's her book. And of course, this one here, she's got to write a second book. And she is stumped until all the shit goes down. And then she's got plenty of material to work with to write a second book. So yeah, there's that too. Oh my God, I loved it so much. Yeah. So I can't wait to read the next one. So I think that's it. Out of all of the books, everything that I had, I'm just checking to make sure I've got everything written down. So yeah, so we're done. That's it. Those are all the books that I read in the month of July. I had a great reading month. Can't say enough about it. And I can't wait to dig into my August books, which obviously I've already done because I read the first one. And I'm recording this on the 2nd of August. And I've also already read the graphic novel I had to read. So that one's done too. Yeah, so I've got 2 books down already. God, like that. Because I had a huge selected TBR. So fingers crossed I can get through it. All right, that's it. Done for today. The next video that I've got coming up, after this one will be September's book releases. It is a huge list of books that I have, and a ton of them that I'm looking forward to. So can't wait to bring those to you. We'll talk to you soon.